Misfits sound at their best on Earth AD. The Misfits sound compelling and invincible. I agree, man. They sound compelling and invincible. They are. It's an iron fist, fucking drenched in green hellfire that punches you right in the fucking face. And at their worst, just sound like noise. I don't think any of it sounds like noise, man. I just think you got to know what party you're coming to. You know, what party is this? Am I going to this kind of party? Am I going to that kind of party? You know, you got to dress appropriately. Unlike their other records, which hook you in the first time, Earth AD takes some getting used to. But now here's the one question that I have before we move on. Is Earth AD the same band as the Static Age band? I mean, that could be its own episode alone, where we just pour over trying to understand how this band could be this band. Because when you look at those two lineups, they are so different. They're worlds different. Earth AD is not Static Age. Like when you think about, like I'm thinking about the band, it's just not the same band. You can't, how can you call them all the Misfits? It just gets so confusing. It's so nuanced. There's endless layers to this. Mike Stacks, where was Earth AD recorded? The production is kind of a mess. Ouch. Oh, here, Jerry Only is about to dish. Ready? Jerry Only. You want to hear something? We played the Whiskey Owl's Bar and went right to record the album that same night, okay? The guys from Black Flag hooked us up and we recorded at this place. It was a giant concrete garage, which I love. I love a live sounding room because you just get some really great shit. That's how we got all those feedback tracks, throwing the guitars on the floor for a whole song. What happened was, when we were there, Glenn fell asleep. He didn't have nothing to do with the recording of the music. It sounded like fucking Motorhead on fucking speed. It was great. Motorhead had just done that Ace of Spades thing, and shit, this pissed all over it. Then what happened was, he went back and remixed it later on and took all the fucking aggression out of it. If I was to play you the original versions, you would cry. You know what I mean? Wow. So, all right, a lot to take from this thing. First of all, I had heard this. I had heard they were talking about, they got feedback tracks throwing the guitars on the floor for the whole song. So I did not know that. I guess they actually threw their guitars for the whole song. It was always my understanding that at the end of a song, they would throw their guitar in this concrete room, close the door, and then just record the feedback as it would just drain out of the guitars or whatever. I didn't know it was in a concrete room. That's so interesting. And then, yes, it's recorded live. It's a live record. They're playing live in there. And, you know, I'm baffled by the fact that Doyle plays so well. I mean, Doyle plays really fucking well on this recording. He does. They're so tight. Doyle, Jerry, and Robo are locked into such a groove. And yeah, that Glenn fell asleep. I don't know if Glenn fell asleep. Maybe Glenn fell asleep for a little bit. You really think Glenn slept while they're recording this album? You think Glenn wouldn't want to be awake? I would love to ask Glenn about that. I would love to hear his version of his point of view of this time when they were recording. I'd love to hear what Spot has to say. Spot would be the most interesting person to listen to because Spot is completely unbiased in all of this. He would tell you exactly whatever Spot says. I would go, okay, this is what happened. This is what happened. This is what I would believe through Spot's testimony. And they claim he went back and remixed it later on. Maybe this was after the band had broken up, right? So the band has broken up and Glenn is gotten the cover back from Mad Mark Rude. You've seen that glorious fucking cover. That is the cover. And remix the album without the band or the input of the band or whatever. You know, again, it sounds like there was no plan. Whenever Glenn records or has recorded in the past, there always seems to be a plan when it comes to Earth AD. I mean, sorry, there always seems to be a plan when Glenn records. I always hear this in interviews. I hear about how Glenn knew exactly what he wanted when they went into the studio. And it feels like Earth AD, there was no vision. There was no actual vision behind Earth AD. Earth AD is a smattering of circumstances and conditions and, you know, in environmental situations that all come together in a mixing pot and create this beautiful accidental demon beast monster thing. Right. Jeff Pierce says, Spot has a book coming out soon. Man, I got to you let me know. Someone let me know when that book comes out. We got to read about Earth A.D. It'd be crazy if Spot didn't talk about Earth A.D. in that book. That's going to be a wealth of gold. But think about it. So Earth A.D. is supposed to be an EP or something. They only got 5 songs. Jerry's venting about how they only learned 5 songs since Robo's in the band or whatever, since Googie left the band, whatever you want to call it. They only have 5 songs to record. And then Glenn kicks in 4 other songs that were meant for Samhain. What are those songs? Blood Feast, Death Comes Ripping, Hellhound, and Green Hell. Does anybody know? Can anybody confirm that? Oh, shit. Jeff Pierce says Spot also did a recent interview with Nate on the podcast called The Vinyl Guide, talking a little about the Misfits. Jeff, please put that link. Please put that link in the comments or DM it to me on the Lodi Facebook page. I want to fucking check that shit out. Or maybe I'll just come back here if you do neither of those things. But it would be a big help if you could do it for me, buddy. I appreciate it. Thank you so much. Damone call? Damon. Oh. Jonathan James with the clutch. Ready? It's demoniacal. Demoniacal. That's how you say it. Dude, thank you. And you know what? I'm not fucking too embarrassed to admit it. There are just sometimes you read a word and it's demoniacal. What did I say? I mean, you just got to laugh. You can't even, demoniacal. Thank you. Thank you, Jeff. I appreciate that, buddy. Really do. Rue says, I remember hearing Glenn say he didn't like the way Earth A.D. turned out. Something about the final mix. So, Rue, yeah, that's interesting. So Jerry here is talking about, Glenn remixed it. Maybe Glenn didn't like the way it sounded initially, period. And, redid that final mix in an attempt to save it, an attempt to make some sort of sense. Maybe that mix is like, okay, I'm going to conform this to hardcore thrash as much as possible. Because I don't like the way it sounded. It's supposed to be slow, slow atmospheric Samhain sort of shit. We're speeding it up to match these other 5 songs that are part of so that makes sense now. Okay. I think we crack the nut. We literally are cracking the nut in real time. You have 5 songs that are sort of written to be hardcore songs, right? Those 5 songs. Then you have Samhain, like the slow Samhain songs that are added on to those 5 songs, making the double EP, Earth A.D. and Wolf's Blood, right? 4 songs, Death Comes Ripping, Hellhound, Blood Feast, and Green Hell. Are those the 4 songs? Are supposed to be slow, atmospheric Samhain songs. And then you have the 5 hardcore songs. That's where all the different conflicting interview shit comes from. So you have Glenn saying, Earth A.D. was supposed to be slower. He's referring to just the 4 Samhain songs. You have Jerry talking about the 5 hardcore songs that were probably written coming into Earth A.D., much faster, that were written to sort of mirror that stuff. And then you have, and then it all gets played at the same speed when they're recording with Spot, right? And much to Glenn's dismay, but also it's Jerry who's pointing the finger back at Glenn going, no, he wanted them fast, but he's only referring to those 5 songs, not the other 4 songs. That's where the disconnect comes in. And then Glenn, after the band breaks up, Glenn is remixing the songs so that they all kind of sound uniform. Because when you listen to Earth A.D. songs, and again, someone mentioned it the other day in another broadcast where there was a reason why the masters had disappeared. They got sent to Germany and they never came back. So the masters are lost, right? Thank you. Jeff Pierce put the link in the thing. And Marty, what are you saying here? Marty, I always wondered what Earth A.D. would sound like with Googie, or even if Walk Among Us had Robo. Earth A.D. is definitely the most compelling record. but makes a little sense in retrospect as a transition into makes a little sense in retrospect as transition to Glenn's Samhain material. I don't know if I 100% agree with that. First of all, if you want to hear what Earth A.D. would sound like with Googie, just listen to the Pit demos. Those Pit songs, that tape I was talking about in the part 1 of this 2-parter episode, which is really part 3 and 4 of the only Jerry secret history. That's Googie. That's Googie practicing the songs. That's Googie doing Earth A.D. songs. Or just listen to Googie do it live with the band. I mean, it's really not. I mean, that's not that much of a mystery, truly. It ain't a mystery, baby, not to me. And then, does it make a little sense in retrospect as a transition to Glenn's Samhain material? I don't know, man. If you listen, when you listen to those, that first Samhain album, man, that's something to do. Listen to Earth A.D. and then listen to Initium and try and see the continuation. Devilman has always said that really each band is just a progression of Glenn Danzig's songwriting. So the Misfits, they all have the same, instrumentation. It's guitar, bass, and drums with Glenn fronting the band. And so in a way, it's always just been an evolution of the Glenn Danzig fronted band. First as the Misfits, then as Samhain, then as Danzig. And you most certainly can hear the transition from Samhain to Danzig in those 4 Samhain Grimm tracks that are on Final Descent. You hear that early Twist of Cain, you hear that early Possession, you hear Twist of Cain, Possession, Final Descent, and Trouble. Those songs with London May drumming. It's still London May drumming, but John Christ on guitar. And that you could hear, wow, that's how they transitioned right into Danzig in 1987. 87 was a transition year for Glenn musically as he's working with Rick Rubin. But in 83 is also a transitional year where I guess, maybe that Earth A.D. material sort of undergoes a gothic transformation. And that's how you get Black Dream. Here's the question. Could you imagine Black Dream on Earth A.D.? Could you imagine Macabre on Earth A.D.? If I had to take a guess, and again, you know who could fucking clear that up? Steve Zing. Steve Zing would know. Maybe I should text him. Steve Zing would probably be able to answer when Macabre was written. And then to ask him, hey, Steve, was Macabre like, kind of like the same vibe that, say, some of those Earth A.D. tracks were, right? So it's like I could imagine maybe Glenn's going for that slow atmospheric vibe of Macabre and then turbocharged those Samhain songs so that they matched the other 5 Samhain songs, but I don't know. Again, all speculation. I'm just talking out of my ass. I don't fucking know. Just nerding out. What else do you have on? All Murder, All Guts, All Fun. Would that be? Could I imagine that on Earth A.D.? Maybe more on like the Die Die My Darling EP, which is actually not Earth A.D. material. It's Walk Among Us material that's sort of mixed more like Earth A.D., if anything. What else would match? I guess maybe Black Dream. Brim Black Dream. I could imagine. I don't want it. I don't need that tune. No. You could almost imagine Black Dream being like turbo boosted to sort of appear on something like Earth A.D. What about Macabre? Macabre spirit sped up. Spiritus, succubus, life is pain. But imagine that like Earth A.D. style. All right. Challenge for any band out there to go out there and fucking record Initium tracks like their Earth A.D. songs. Hey, John, Voice of Doom, I fucking challenge you to do that. Record Macabre, record Samhain. Wait a minute. Let's think about that. Boom, 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 boom. Salt the dead, you close the veil, the change your shapes is alone on us. Autumn goes, brings the pagan death. Who seek the war of the Samhain fire? No, man, that would never be on Earth AD. It's too slow. It's too like the I don't know what you would call it. What do you call it when the drums? It's just a different tempo or whatever. It's just not. I couldn't imagine Robo playing that. Boom, bum, 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 bum. It's just no, it's different, man. That's fucking different. Samhain is different, and Samhain was written in I think 83, right? The song Samhain. Archangel's the earliest track. Okay, Archangel is a good look at that. You know, you think about Archangel. Could Archangel have fit on Earth AD? There's no mention of Archangel when they're recording Earth AD. There's no talk about, hey, let me take some of these Samhain songs. When Glenn is deciding what's going to go on Earth AD, he's not going, should I put Archangel on there too? Would Archangel have fit? Where would it have gone? If anything, I guess I would make that the ending track. Yeah, Jonathan James says it's tribal. Jonathan James also says, I always felt like a lot of the Legacy of Brutality re-recorded versions of those Misfit songs had a real Samhain vibe. You know what? It's been a minute since I listened to Legacy of Brutality. I'm going to go back and check that out. I mean, I guess that would make sense. He recorded them while he was in Samhain, right? He was firmly in Samhain when he re-recorded that guitar, those guitar and those bass drums. So this is wow, but this is cool, man. Even I mean, this is totally Jerry's sort of thing. So Jerry is really talking about Motorhead and Ace of Spades. I mean, those guys were firmly planted in metal when they were doing Earth AD. It's punk, it's hardcore punk inspired by heavy metal. That's what Earth AD is. Think about that. Think about that concept for a second. In the way that Metallica or whoever is influenced by Earth AD, that's metal that's influenced by hardcore punk, right? So in a way, Earth AD partially is sonically, and man, I guess Jerry and Doyle must have their imprint if they're making that shit super fucking speedy fast. Amy, you say yep. I don't know what you're saying yep to, but I want to know. Whoops, that's Marty. Marty says, I think Archangel was a demo given to Dave Vanian to sing. It was, but Archangel was for a side project. It was for a Samhain side project. I don't know if he had the name Samhain back then. When did Halloween 2 come out? Because that's when I think Glenn first latched on to doing Samhain, right? That's when Glenn was like, this shit's really cool. You know, let me see. Halloween 2, the night. Yeah. Okay, so that's 81. I think that's when Glenn gets the idea to use Samhain as a band name. At some point, he sees Halloween sometime in 81 or 82, Halloween 2, and it's like, what is Samhain? Oh, Amy is saying metal and punk are close cousins. They sure are, man. They sure are. So in a way, Earth AD is metal, is hardcore punk inspired by metal. It's just crazy how that gets reinterpreted through the brain of the musician. Jerry only says, Amy also says, early Slayer and Circle Jerks. I agree with that too. I would definitely agree with that a little bit for sure. Marty says, Jonathan says, Jerry and Doyle were into goofy metal, not thrash type stuff. Yes, but that's my point, is that thrash type stuff, I mean, that goofy metal, like the goofy metal, like is basically influences it. What's the word I'm thinking of? I'm spacing on the word I want to use. It doesn't inflect. It imposes. Yeah, I guess impose. It informs. That's the word I want to use. The goofy metal informs hardcore, and the result is Earth AD. That's part of it, a little bit. Glenn brings Samhain songs, and those guys in their goofy metal phase inform those songs Earth AD.